Hey everybody, so in this video I wanted to give some detailed step-by-step instructions for clean pedal changes. So I find that often for beginners and those that happened to unfortunately pedal incorrectly for most of their lives, it's pretty difficult to then switch over to the correct pedaling coordination, which with the sustain pedal, as some of you might know, when you play a new chord, like let's say this represents my hand, this represents my foot, at the moment I play the chord, I should be going up with the foot. So at the moment I play, I will go up, down. And then if I play a new chord, I'll go up, down. And whether it's new people learning the piano or others that are trying to change their old habits into this correct pedaling coordination, it's not easy to implement, and I wanted to give even more step-by-step granular directions for those that are having trouble with this hand-foot coordination. So on this channel, I hope to share with you some strategies, mindsets, insights, etc., often of my own creation that I hope will help you in your piano playing, hopefully even in other areas of your life as well. So I think I always give this little intro about the strategies, mindsets, etc. I mean, pedaling is a good example of how this is kind of just a shift in perspective or a certain lens through which to view pedaling. Obviously, I did not create these pedaling concepts. There's pretty widely agreed upon ideas for like, oh, we should lift the foot off completely in many situations, and we should have this timing with the foot in order to produce clean harmonic changes, in order to not blur the melodic lines and so on. So there's many different ways to pedal, some of them fancier than others, but the bare basics are largely agreed upon in the piano world, but this is just a specific way to go about it. So this is for those when you're told like, oh, actually you need to go up, down with the chord, right? And try to do that in small sections, that still isn't enough. So when we encounter situations like this, the student maybe even intellectually understands that how the up, down matches with the new chord. They've tried to do it in small sections, but they still don't seem quite to be getting it. What can you do? What type of thinking can we use to break things down even further? So let me just briefly demonstrate the correct pedaling coordination. So if I am playing this part of the C section of Für Elise, I'm just going to use like basically these two measures plus the next chord here. So I have... So for each one of these, I'm going up, down with the foot, up, down at that moment, up, down, and then I'm going to continue onward. I'm trying to play softer so you can hear my voice. Up, down, up, down. So I'll change right then. Up, down, up, down. And what people typically will do instead, a lot of the time the problem is that it's early. So instead of going up, down with the new chord, they will go up, down, up, down. But you'll hear gaps in the sound. Other times you'll have other problems where if you change early, you'll actually have mixing as well. Basically, if you put your foot down with the new chord or sonority, you might have gaps, you might have mixing in the sound, all things that essentially we don't want. It also doesn't help that pedaling is sometimes notated in a confusing way in the music itself. Actually, let me see if I can find, okay. So here's one copy of Für Elise. Sometimes you'll notice that pedaling is notated like this. This actually says PED, believe it or not, for those that aren't familiar with this sort of symbol. So this is a direction to put down the pedal, and this is supposedly a direction to lift up the pedal, but it really is not notated literally in terms of when you actually want to lift the pedal. Like nobody who plays Für Elise probably is actually going to put the foot down right here and then lift it right at this point and then put the foot down here, because it's going to result in those gaps in sound that I just demonstrated. So sometimes a slightly better notation that you'll see is this, where you'll see these like little mountains. This is closer to what we actually want to do. visually because we're holding the pedal and then we'll change up, down at the moment that we play the new chord or note or sonority. And this is the beginning of Für Elise, by the way. Maybe some of you recognize the music and how it looks here. And then you would change the pedal again. But even this, it doesn't really tell you exactly where the up is. I mean, there's just this general little mountain here. At least it's better than this, which would actually result in gaps in the sound if you observed it literally. So I sometimes like to indicate in my students' scores like this. So this is not standard musical notation, but I feel like it's even clearer than this, which is that you want to lift the foot exactly with the new note or chord or sonority, and then you put the foot down shortly afterwards. There's not really an exact timing that the down needs to be. It shouldn't be like all the way over here, certainly, but whether it's here or it's a little bit closer to this note, it's all sort of okay, but it should just be down shortly after this. Pretty quick, but not too insanely fast. So I probably think it was like bum, 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 and then up, down, bum, bum, so we would just go up, down, like dun, dun, dun. So if this is the foot, I'd probably play the notes like da, da, dum. So up, down, dun, dun. The down could be completed even before this note is played, or maybe like kind of while it's being played. But in any case, the down will be very shortly after the up. Anyway, so in this section over here, I've notated out that little area I was demonstrating earlier in the C section. So since this section's already going on, like the sustain pedal, the right pedal is already being held, at the moment that we play this, we actually want to play up, down, dun, 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 up, down, dun, 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 up, down, dun, 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 dun. And this is hopefully already going to be breaking down quite a bit if you try to practice, for instance, from star to star. So if we play from star to star, that's basically one measure plus the next chord or the next note. So that's this entire measure plus the next note. And we want to see, can we do these changes cleanly? So let's look just at that part. If I can keep this phone from falling. Okay. So let's assume or pretend that the first chord that we're not going to do anything with it. We're just going to have the foot down for a moment. And let's try to practice changing the pedal when we get to the first note of the next measure. So that would be like this. Okay. So this is the part where we want to break things down even much more. So we would have had to have the insight to think like, oh, it's a good idea to probably just to isolate maybe what I call a one measure set. One measure plus the next note. And we're going to simplify the beginning of the measure. We're just going to hold the foot first. And all we care about is this one change, this one up, down. Now, again, sometimes when the student's giving the instruction, oh, you got to go up with the next chord, it's too difficult to follow. So this is how we'll break it down. The first step is that we're just going to do up. So we have the foot down already. And at the moment that we play the first chord of the next measure, all we're going to do is go up. Okay, that's it. So most of the time, the student finds it much easier to follow this direction because your only job really is to just lift up the foot at the moment that you play the next chord. Do not worry about putting it back down, okay? So you have the foot down already, and get ready when you play the first note of the next chord, or the first chord of the next measure, you will lift the foot up. And that's the only instruction, that's step one. Now, step two would be that you complete the up-down motion. So if we look at the music again, what we did in step one was all we did was execute the up. And we basically ignored this. We just had the foot down. Whoops, let me get that from the beginning. So we had the foot down already. We played through all this. Step one was we just lifted the foot up exactly at that time. Step two, we won't worry about the rest of the measure. We're just going to go up, down. So that means that we will have the foot down already. And then at the moment that we play this, we will then go up, down. Now, it's very important to continue to go back to step one as many times as is necessary. Because the reason people are early is that they're anticipating that change too much. They're concerned about it, and so the up ends up being early. So you really want to alternate between step one and step two. So we have the foot down already. That's step one. All you do is just lift the foot up right there. now I'm just going to do step 2, which is that I will go up and down, but the up is still in the same place. Up, down. I'll try again. Up, down. Okay. Now sometimes I actually have to like fake out the student a bit. I will tell them like, okay, all you have to do is just lift the foot up when you get to the next measure. That's it. But then I'll surprise them by telling them to put their foot back down after they've put their foot up, right? So it goes something like this. Okay, all you have to do is just lift your foot up. Step 1, right? At the moment you get to the next measure. Up, and then put it back down. Okay? So, because you don't want to anticipate, you don't want the up to be early. So again, step 1, just lift up. Up. Step 2 would be lifting it up exactly in the same way and then putting it back down. Up, down. And you might need to fake yourself out. You might need to tell yourself, like, all I'm going to do is go up, and then when you're ready, then you put the foot back down. Now, step 3, if you wanted to go on, would be going up, down, and then continuing to play your left hand notes. So that would look like this. Up, down. So notice my left hand continued to play after I went the up, down. I was able to continue out of it. And that might take some practice. That might take some continuing to go back to step 1, back to step 2. So step 1 is just going up. Step 2 is just going up, down, and stopping on that first chord of the next measure. And then step 3 would be going up, down, but then continuing onward, playing your hands, of course. So if we're just observing this one measure set, which is the first beat of the first measure to the first beat of the second measure, like you see here in the music, we could also practice coordinating this up, down in the very beginning of the measure as well. So we can break down even this little area from star to star. Okay. So let me just try to walk us through that. I've already practiced the ending. I practiced that little area there. So I did up, down. I can practice that. Up, okay. Up, down, okay. That's all that I would need. I wouldn't even need step 3 to go on here if I just wanted to practice that little section. Now in the beginning of the measure, if I want to practice going up, down there too, because that's what would happen if I played from the line before, I can also practice that. I can have the foot down already, and just for coordination practice, at the moment I play this chord, I can practice going up, okay? Then I can practice going like this, up, down, right? So I have the foot down already, and this is just to practice coordinating, because later when I play from the line before, my foot would actually have to do this. So step 1 is just going up, have the foot down already. Step 2 would be going up, down. And then step 3, of course, would be going up, down, and then continuing to play with my left hand. That might take some practice to get, but I would continue to go back to step 1, have the foot down already now, and now step 2, you go up, down, and then step 3, have the foot down already, you'll go up, down, and then continue to play with your left hand. Okay. Let's say that you got that, you practiced up, have the foot down already, you practice up, down, then you practice going up, down, and you continue to go forward. Now you can practice your change at the beginning of the next measure. So you can practice up, okay, put the foot down again, up, down, okay, put the foot down, up, down, keep going, and now we can practice up, down, up, okay. So I did the first change correctly. The second one, I just practiced going up, and then now I can practice going up, down, up, down. So if I did this, this was kind of a more extended example. I would have practiced changing my foot both here and over here. And if we followed my logical methodology, if you search David Chang logical methodology, you look at the playlist on my YouTube channel, you'll see me mark symbols that look like this. Well, this would mean I did one measure plus the next chord, and my foot was also correct. Because it's up to us to decide, like, what are the parameters that we're passing ourselves for. So if we want to include perfect pedaling, Well, in this tiny little section, I trained myself to go through those 3 steps, just the up, down, and then up, down, going forward, right? Step 1 is just up, step 2 is just up, down, step 3 would be up, down, and then moving forward. And I trained that both here and over here. So my pedaling was perfect just within this little section. And then maybe I would want to do the same thing in this section. I won't do that here, just for the length of the video. But I hope that provides some perspective. So it's not really just about isolating a small section, and it's not really just about understanding the general coordination of the pedaling. You can break even that coordination into tiny steps. And I know that I was redundant and repetitive. I feel that's the same way that I would be in a real private lesson as well too. So I find those that aren't able to get the pedaling coordination, you really do have to go this granular. You repeat the same things over and over again. And the student then records that in all different ways in their own systems. So I invite you to be creative. I invite you to redo those steps over and over again in different spaced, creative, mindful ways. I invite you to practice, and in this case, this was a 1 measure set, 1 measure plus the next beat. You could do the same thing with the next measure, the next measure. After you've gotten used to doing that little 3-step process in these little tiny 1 measure sets, then maybe you'll be able to do 2 measure sets after a few days. Maybe you'll be able to do 4 measure sets or 8 measure sets still later than that. And the great thing about practicing logically in this way and breaking it down is that this coordination, this pedal coordination, is going to serve you in like every piece of music that you play in the future, because this legato pedaling technique is used in, all over the piano repertoire, all genres. So it's a very, very good investment of your time. So yeah, if you found this helpful, let me know. Is this too specific? Are there things that you're still curious about in terms of how to learn this pedaling coordination? Let me know what thoughts and comments you have, and please like, subscribe, let people know about the channel if you found this valuable. So thanks. See you guys in the next one.